Create or die. It's a podcast coming at ya with a new theme song and all the good stuff you might be looking for. Just kidding. Not the theme song. Oh, jeez. Might have to edit that one out. Anyways, this is Ike Allred with another episode of Create or Die. Today's guest is a master of all things UX, from research to solution architecture and all the way through interface design via his current go-to tool, Figma. His foundational experience as a marketer and overall people whisperer helped open the door to his true passion, UX design. Our guest has worked in the consulting agency world for clients like Genentech, Harley-Davidson, and The Gap. He's led the UX efforts at PowerSchool, QPQ, and now an exciting startup, Launchbadge. He is the one and only Golden Grammar, Mr. Jesse Graham. Jesse shares a high-level view of his origin story and then dives into what makes good UX design, the differences between UX and UI, as well as some helpful tips on how to stand out as an entry-level UXer and increase your chances of landing that first gig. Enjoy. So, Jesse, thanks for agreeing to be on this little program.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
You're quite the man.
I think it's awesome.
Thanks. We've known each other for over a decade now, right? Was it
Oh, yeah,
11,
at least.
2012? When was it when you first started working over there at with Sibling Systems flagship?
Oh, man. It's been a long time.
Yeah, I want to say it was
I'm,
somewhere in that 2011 range.
yeah, I think so.
Huh,
2010, 2011, something like that.
yeah. So we go way back, and
Way, way.
and back in those days, um, UX was barely a thing, right? I mean, we
Oh,
were
yeah.
really starting to talk about it.
Yeah, it was definitely not a thing. I was just, clamoring, trying to figure out what it is that I wanted to do.
Yeah,
You know, I had some entrepreneurial tendencies, and which you're well aware of, because I would,
totally.
jump in your office every once in a while and be like, how can we make things better, and how can we do things better, and what can we go after, and what products can we make, and
Yeah,
I was just all about that. Um, and so, but there wasn't really anything in college, because I was going to college at the time.
yeah, that's right.
Um, and there wasn't really anything, there was no entrepreneurial degree like there are today. There wasn't anything in UX.
Totally.
So I was like, well, maybe I'll just do the next best thing. And the closest thing to it was marketing.
Yeah,
Um, and so I was like, I'll just jump into that, because I like to, for me personally, what motivates me is I like to hear and understand how people think, and
mm-hmm.
what it is that they're all about. What makes them tick? What are the motivating factors that they get them to get up and move and do something? And these days, it's a lot harder to figure that out, because there's a lot of people out there who, it takes a lot to get them to get up and move and do something. So
So noisy out.
I don't necessarily want to call it a laziness,
Yeah.
per se, but it leans that direction. I won't call it out as such, but it leads that way.
Okay. So yeah, headed in the marketing direction, and yeah, that's I love that about you. Your desire to create and find new ways to innovate and do things better. And so tell me, what was the transition from that kind of this marketing to honing in on user experience design, UI design?
Yeah. Yeah. So I did a lot of just design in general,
Yeah.
probably starting about 2006. is when I really got into design. Had a friend who was just like, "Hey, I got the Adobe suite." He was some hacker and gave it to me for free, and and so I was self-taught, learned how to design. I've always been kind of creative naturally, and so I jumped into it, and was just like, this is awesome. And then, when I was doing marketing, so I would work on, stuff here and there, and I got a job, with you at Flagship. And I have to say, I have to applaud you for seeing my potential, what I could become, because I was looking at my designs from before, and they were just terrible. So I don't know what you saw in me, but I appreciate it, being able to have the opportunity and be under your tutelage. So I just had to throw that in there.
No.
Ike is amazing. So anybody who could take advantage of that is lucky. Anyways, so back to the story. I love to design. I love to work on UI. Um, and then, like I said, I was doing getting my degree in marketing, and then at the time, at the time when UX started to enter the industry, I was all about that, because it took, my passion for design and my passion for marketing, and specifically people,
Mhm.
and combine those two into one discipline, and it just made sense.
Yeah.
It was just something that I was just like, okay, like I can't do anything else. Like, this is what I need to focus on. And so then I just, taught myself how to do that, started learning all the lingo, and started working my way into, different companies, going through different trainings, going through, different events and things like that, just to see what the industry was like and what the standards were like. And so once I started to adopt those, and learning all those things, so I don't have any formal training in
Mm.
UX,
Yeah.
where I actually went, participated in a course, and all that kind of thing. Everything was pretty much self-taught, and I took advantage of all the resources that the internet has to provide on.
It's that time again. It's the holiday season. If you're looking for that last minute creative gift for the creative on your list, go no further than a little website I like to call CRE8ORDIE.net. That's right. You're going to find lots of good stuff, from custom ping pong balls to posters to stickers that you can adorn your laptop or iPad with. You can't miss. Head on over, CRE8ORDIE.net.
you
Totally.
know what's available out there. You just got to take advantage of that stuff. There's so
And,
much free information.
and anyone over 30 in UX design probably doesn't have any formal training because, like you said,
Yeah.
it was a new thing, post school for you.
Yep.
I, and so yeah, it was one of those things, learn on the job, and take advantage of those resources online. Another thing that I want to point out that I think was awesome that you did is, I remember working with you, and you had ideas for apps that you wanted to create yourself, and so
Mm.
in your copious free time at work, you would noodle on those, and we'd talk about it, um, and just work out those problems for yourself. And I think the idea was, the way we rationalized it as part of work was, we would leverage it in our portfolio, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
this pretend project, this
Yeah.
that we're working towards. And so, how do you think that effort helped you on your path to UX mastery?
Oh, it was huge. Being able to go through, and I don't know about you, but as a creative, I personally found it a lot easier to collaborate with people, to
Mm-hmm.
get the different mindsets, involved, so that, because it's like there's something to be said about when you're talking about ideas out loud,
Mm-hmm.
especially with other people who are willing to listen. Um, and so funny that you should bring that up because I still do that. Like I still have ideas. I'm still working on. I still work on side projects like outside of my normal 9 to 5, if you will.
Mhm.
I'm very fortunate to be working with a company that that allows me to do that type of thing. I don't have to keep like a specific set of hours.
Mhm.
I'm so because I kind of think all over the place. Sometimes I wake up at 2 in the morning
Yeah.
and I'm just like I have this idea and I can't not do it. I have to put it down,
Yep.
in the computer or on paper or something, because I don't want those thoughts to flee. And I consider it an inspiration, and I got to take
Yeah.
advantage whenever inspiration hits. So
That's awesome. And something that we've called out on this program in previous episodes is how important it is to just wherever you are, have iPad, piece of paper, computer, whatever,
yep,
capture that inspiration, like you said.
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
Yeah. And so, we're for those who maybe aren't in the business of product design, UX design, UI design, what would you say is the difference between a UX designer and a UI designer, and or is there such a thing as someone who does both?
yeah. So I am based off of my experience. I tend to break UX into three camps, right? There's the research aspect, there's the solution or architecture,
Mm.
and then there's the beautification.
Okay.
Because all three of those things affect the user experience.
Yeah.
So research is huge because you need to figure out and really define what the actual problem is that you're trying to solve. If you
Mhm.
don't have a if you don't have a well-defined problem, um, there can be issues down the line because then you set up these hypotheses, and then you have to figure out, you know, should I spend all the development money doing this? And if you don't do research, then you could shoot yourself in the foot spending a bunch of money on something that people don't even like,
Yeah.
or does not solve the problem, especially if you don't even know what the problem is. So that's the first aspect of it. The second being architecture,
Mm.
um, and that's what I love to do the most is
Okay.
the architecture and the solutioning,
Hmm.
to take all the excuse me, to take all the information that is aggregated, through research and being able to come up with a solution definitely is my favorite part. Um, and then, of course, the beautification, because solutioning and architecture is all the flows and the wireframes that you put together.
Yeah.
Beautification is taking all of that and just really going to town on making it pretty and you know make it so that people actually want to look at and use your product
Yeah.
that you're creating. So I I think that if depending on the company size,
Yeah.
it depends on, if it's a large company, usually bigger corporations, you have like a nifty budget. They're going to have people in all three of those areas, those disciplines. But then if you work in a smaller company like I do, I work in all three of those areas.
Yeah.
So somebody can be, a generalist and, cover all those bases.
Mm.
Um, it just depends on what you want. It
Yeah.
just depends on what you want to do.
No, that makes sense.
Um,
And if you
what
have
area you want to focus on. Yeah.
a skill set to do all three as well, I mean,
Yeah.
I remember working with some of the big corporations early on with you on, UX design projects, and they had the skill set to maybe do the research and do that
Yeah.
architecture stage, and we'd go into a conference room on their campus and have a bunch of sticky notes on the whiteboard and
Yep.
they'd be ready. Let's move these things around, and then it was up to us to take that use probably Photoshop at the time, which isn't the go-to UI design tool anymore.
Oh, how far we've come.
Yeah. um, to do the beautification step. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome that you're. I would definitely consider you a generalist there, but it's cool to hear that your passion lies in that kind of architectural phase.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where, like I said, I could do all three, but if I had to pick my favorite,
Yeah,
and that's, for anybody who's going to be new in the space, whether they're doing consultancy or working in a corporation, um, you really want to figure out what you're mostly passionate about,
hmm,
because I'm huge on passion, like following your passion. And so if you're doing something you don't like day in and day out, it may be great to like get your foot in the door, but figure out ways to work on your passion, um, in UX. So
yeah. No, amen to that. So talk to me a little bit more about how maybe the research phase has evolved a little bit over the years, and maybe it hasn't. Maybe it was just we were doing it wrong in the past, or but I remember some of the contacts that we had at these different organizations. They wanted to create an internal enterprise app, and there was something like that a big company like Facebook or Twitter had already created, and it was
Mm,
about let's just look at what they had done and um, and kind of steal essentially from them,
yeah.
and they must have spent all the time doing the research, and obviously it's proven with their millions of users that whatever they've done has worked. Is that still a viable path to kind of look at
It
this thing? Yeah,
Yeah, it is. It is. You know, I mean, not as much as it used to be. Still definitely viable, especially because the hard part about working in software, especially with these behemoths, kind of they're essentially setting the standard, right?
yeah,
Um, it's almost like they can go in and put a solution together and say, "This is it now.
yeah,
This is how it's done forever." Not that they do that, but they definitely have the capability to
yeah,
do it. And and so sometimes I wonder. I do know that larger corporations that definitely heavily invest in research and finding things, because development is really expensive.
yeah.
Even internally working on internal products, it's expensive. And so that's one of the benefits of UX in general, is
Hmm.
that you can come to conclusions and answers a lot quicker without having to spend all the money on development.
Yeah.
And so, that's where like prototyping comes in and stuff like that.
And speaking of prototyping,
Yeah,
do you have a go-to tool for prototyping?
I just use Figma.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Figma is
No,
really good.
yeah.
Got a really good prototyping platform.
Yeah.
Um, It, I know they're working on more to become a little more robust as far as like interaction goes, which is going to be cool. But I primarily use that. It's a really good platform to hand off for developer handoff, especially because they could just grab all the assets and all the color schemes and
Yeah.
everything that they
CSS
need.
is kind of generated by uh,
Yep.
Figma to a certain degree, I think, as well. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really nice. Working with my development team, they prefer it. Because I used to work in Sketch all the time, um, and so I made the transition over to Figma not too long ago, and I haven't regretted it.
Yeah.
Sketch is a great tool. They have a little ways to go,
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely a Figma fanboy.
Yeah. I use it seldomly because I'm not 100% in your world of UX UI design anymore, but
Mhm.
I scene. It's a great tool. It's awesome to be able to see the little cursors hovering around and have little comments in there, and people, and you're working in real time.
Yeah.
That can be a blessing and a curse, I guess. Sometimes I don't want people to see
Depends
my
on the
yeah,
team you work with.
yeah,
It's like it's not finished yet.
yeah.
I'm
Don't
still don't comment yet. I'm
yeah.
still working.
I'll tell you when the commenting phase has opened.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So in addition to what we've talked about up to this point, the
Yeah.
tool of choice right now for a lot of people is Figma. It sounds like, and I've that's been my perspective as well. What other things, if there's somebody just coming out of college, or just trying to wonder, hey, I want to go get into this UX design world. Do you have any suggestions for them where you would point them?
Yeah. Yeah. Nielsen Norman is a really good resource.
Yeah.
I really like them. They've been in the game forever. They were, doing UX when UX wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
And so I'll hit them up a lot, to try to to learn up on trends and standards and things like that. There's also, trying to think of this, the UX Creative, I think it's called. Um, Let me find it real quick.
And is this, I mean, obviously you went to school for marketing. You've learned this trade along the way. Is this one of those careers where you think people would definitely benefit from, university, college, or is it just as possible even now to not go to school
I
like
I
this?
do I do think it's beneficial, to get that foundation.
Yeah,
I don't think it's essential,
yeah,
um, because you can get the foundation. That I mean, there are people who are online teaching UX on YouTube.
and the Nielsen Norman, they
Nielsen
provide
Norman, they
certification and different things, right?
yeah, they have certifications. There are a ton of boot camps out there right now for UX. Um, because interestingly enough, there are a lot of people transitioning from one type, job type into the UX industry.
Right.
And I think that COVID kind of put people on their heels a little bit,
Hmm.
about that, and so they're like, let me see if I can figure out something that, where I could, if something like this were to happen again, that I could work from home, or if I needed to work remotely, that I'd have the ability to do that. And because of a lot of the professions that I was seeing, I recently did an interview, to find a junior UX designer, to join my team, and there were a good amount of people who are making that transition, and
Yeah.
they were asking me questions about how can I break into this industry, and those types of things, especially when I don't have as much experience as everybody else does, and it's very hard. It's very saturated right now for
Yeah.
junior UX designers. It's extremely saturated, and I feel for them.
Yeah.
I really do, because it's there's the struggle is real. It really is. They're having a really hard time. I when I put out that post on social media for finding somebody, I got well over 1,000
Are
applicants.
you serious? Well,
It was insane, and I really felt for the people hiring as well, because I was just like, okay, now I understand why you have to be so nitpicky, because you have so many candidates to choose from, and so it
yeah.
was an eye-opening experience.
Hmm.
So that being said, a follow up to your question about education, um, having that real world experience is going to be huge.
Yeah.
And so it kind of goes back to that create or die mentality. Like you need to be working on ideas and things, on your own, to be able to showcase that you have experience, that you know what you're talking about. Because
Hmm.
right now, when I would look at like everybody that was applying for, this my position, everybody's portfolios look the same.
Yeah.
Like it was all coming from those boot camps,
Yeah.
like they were all looking the same. They were all like nobody was really original.
Mhm.
You look at their portfolio, everybody had three things to look at,
Yeah.
and so it's just like they would look at things like I was looking at for things like problem definition and
Hmm.
you know seeing if they really understood, and again it was just everything was looking the same, and
Yeah.
it
And so portfolio was a way for you to quickly filter people out. They're either, you know, looks the same, or maybe it's in this above average category that you'll maybe give a second look to. Is that fair to say?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that is definitely fair to say. The other thing too was there were people who I would get like video pitches from
Okay.
people
Yeah.
about why they wanted the job, and
Yeah.
that was
Plus,
out of the
yeah.
box thinking. I
Yeah.
mean, that was like it's like you're a user experience designer.
Yeah.
Like you have to think from a hiring manager's perspective. What are they going to look for? And that's the thing is like I would ask people questions, and it's like if you didn't do research on my company,
Yeah.
how am I going to trust you to do research on anything else?
Yeah.
If your UI is not up to standard compared to what's out there in the rest of the world, how am I going to trust you to be able to create amazing UI for our clients and things like that, or our products?
Exactly.
So it's it you have to take advantage of the internet and what's out there and all the platforms, and to see like what creative minds are coming up with, to see what the standards are for the industry. And if you can start to speak intelligently to those things, then you give yourself a better chance
Yeah.
you know
I love that. I love the way that you phrase that about the experience for the hiring manager and how you can make that as frictionless as possible and as informative as
yep,
possible. You don't want them
yep.
to have to hunt around for your portfolio. And if you can lead with like a pitch or a video, then that's something they just have to hit play, and hopefully you grab their attention in the first couple of seconds so they don't just stop it. But
Yeah, out of all those people, there was one person who
I,
sent me a video.
there you go. You
One.
heard it here
And I
first.
was just, yeah, I was like, okay, this is different. This is amazing.
It's awesome.
I get to learn more about him, his
Yeah.
personality. He did a really, really great job.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Without having to go through the headache of reaching out to that person, setting up a time to talk, and then you're, days and
it
days.
made me want to talk to him more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I was
No,
just
that's
like,
great.
okay, this is great. This is somebody who's like doing something different, you know. And I know it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
I know video is nerve-wracking. Like nobody wants to be on video.
Yeah. And you're putting yourself out there because,
Yeah.
maybe Jesse isn't looking for somebody with goofy looking glasses and a beard, and so it's like as soon as they, yeah. No, that's so for these people who maybe went to boot camp, or they don't have paying clients yet, and they don't have these awesome, real world examples. Um, am I hearing from you that you would suggest just creating your own pretend projects, essentially? Like, how would I redesign Nike's app, for example, and put that in a portfolio, clearly stating that, hey, this is just hypothetical.
Sure.
That,
Sure. I think it depends on what you want to go after,
yeah.
right? If you specifically want to work on UI, like figuring out a better way to lay out various websites or products or applications, by all means, like
Yeah.
that's definitely huge. Um, the world is full of problems, right?
Yeah.
Full of problems. There's problems everywhere. So pick one,
Yeah.
even if it's not software based. you can take pictures, you can take video, you can take, you can enter descriptions. Like you really need to be a problem solver and
Mm.
have that mindset
Yeah.
so that you can say, you know what? Here's a problem that I personally deal with day in and day out, right? Um, and then you go through and you say, okay, I wonder if other people are dealing with this problem too.
Mm-hmm.
And how do I find those people? This is what I did to find those people. Like I said, it doesn't even have to be software. It could be something that has to do with dogs. It could be something that has to do with, um, you know, a problem on a bike or whatever. Like,
Yeah. And
like
you're,
you can figure it out. And even if you're gonna like mock up a prototype of actual physical product, you could do that too.
yeah.
So it's just it's that mindset. It's being able to show that mindset. You have the experience of like I've gone out there and in the world and I picked a problem and here's my solution for it. I've done my homework. Here's my solution for it. And then it can spark conversation,
Yeah.
especially with people who are reviewing your portfolio.
Yeah.
Because it's like if you're going after a software, a position in software, let's say, and you have a few projects in your portfolio that are actual physical products that you've been thinking about on top of the software solutions that you're coming up with. Those are conversation starters.
Yeah.
People are going to be like, think of the hiring manager. This person is different. I look at software portfolios for 1,000 people, but this one person has actual physical products.
Yeah.
It's just different, and that's one of the things you got to think about is being different to stand out. But that's how you would get that real world experience into being able to show that. And anytime somebody says UX, immediately the thought process is software applications, web based. But there's UX everywhere.
Yeah. You've got physical products, like you mentioned, just interactions with people, whether you're working at Chick-fil-A, that interaction with
Yeah.
the employee and the customer, and how you can fine tune that. And yeah.
Well, it's so funny you bring up Chick-fil-A. There's a Chick-fil-A like right down the street from my house,
Yeah.
and what they did is they had these parking spaces on the back side of their lot,
Yeah.
and then right in front is where they would have the drive-through,
Yeah.
and so nobody was parking in those back spaces. Why? It was a terrible user experience because everybody who's gone to Chick-fil-A, the lines go,
Yeah.
crazy lines, and what did they do? They shut down the restaurant.
Yeah.
And what are they doing? They're changing where the drive-through lane goes, so that they can accommodate to have more parking, so people can go inside and
Yeah.
actually eat within the restaurant and not have to deal with that.
And create the best user experience for their customer.
So it makes me wonder,
Yeah.
right? They had gone through this whole process of building this building and this parking lot, on the lot. How much research did they do? How much research did they do about the construction of that lot and whether or not that would be effective, and because now they're spending a ton of money
Yeah.
fixing something that could have easily been solved through research
Yeah. Yeah.
and mocking it up and those types of things. It's like if they just knew based off of that location how many people, hey, if we put a Chick-fil-A here, how many people are actually going to visit?
Yeah.
If they did some sort of survey or something like that, given, once we open, we'll give you a free sandwich or something.
Yeah.
They give stuff away all the time. So it's like they would have done that from the beginning. And see, that's a real world problem,
Yeah.
where I even talked with my wife about that, where I'm just like, why did they stick this here? Why did they put that there? That's ridiculous, right? And that's how we think as like UXers
Yeah.
is, we see all these problems and we're just like, man, if they had just done it this way, it would have been so much better.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned if you're applying for a software job, don't just include software type problems in your portfolio or your application. and that goes back to something we've talked about on this program in the past, where, to create something new and innovative, if you're just going and looking at what other people are doing in that space,
Yeah.
whether it be UI design or motion design or whatever, then you're just going to emulate that. And yeah, it's going to be good, but it's not going to be the cutting edge stuff. Whereas if you can leverage things that you've done, you're a passionate golfer, and what does it
Yeah.
feel like to smell that grass and be out there, and how can you work that into this experience for this golfing app, or maybe it's not golf, whatever.
Yeah.
That'll make it a lot more rich.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Cool, Jesse. I think I'm getting the feeling that there's going to need to be a follow up to this
Okay.
episode. There's lots of good stuff, and we could dig in for hours, I'm sure. But in the meantime, before we do that follow up episode, if someone wanted to reach out to you, connect, pick your brain, offer you $1 million, whatever, what's the best way to connect with you as far as
The best way to connect with me would probably be on LinkedIn.
yeah,
Um, I'm sure I could get you the link, and maybe you could stick it in the description or something like that.
yeah, totally.
Because I don't have an easy URL where I could just rattle it off. It's Jesse and some bunch of numbers. Because
Totally.
I'm sure there's tons of Jessies out there in the professional world. So
Yeah.
so I could probably shoot that over to you. Would probably be the best way to reach out to me, or people can email me, Jesse@launchbadge.com.
Okay.
I could be reached out there as well.
Excellent. Well, it's been a pleasure, as always, talking.
Oh, of course. It's always a pleasure to hang out with Ike.
Appreciate it, man. What can I say? A great episode. Am I right? It leaves you wanting more. And if that's the case, head on over to YouTube, where we've got the ability to comment. You can watch a video version of this podcast if you're only listening to the audio. Yeah, head on over there, search Create or Die. You might need to throw my name in there in the search as well, Ike Allred, and you'll see the branding, and you'll know you're in the right place. But yeah, leave us some comments. Where did we get it right? Where did we get it wrong? Do you want more? Are you an aspiring UX designer or creator of some other field that wants a chance to come on the program and set the record straight or share your story? We welcome it. In the meantime, keep on creating, my friends. Create or die.